Hey there, it's Larissa, and last weekend was Father's Day, and Omar and I did a little traveling back to Detroit, Michigan, where he and I met and got married for a wedding, and we also made a trip to the Detroit Institute of Arts, which I'm going to talk about. And I saw my father. But before I talk about that and get back to making my dinner here, I don't understand why the Queen of England is not threatening to dissolve Parliament right now. This decision that the United Kingdom is coming up against, this vote that's happening, about Britain leaving the European Union. This is a failure on the part of British government. We're running the risk right now of, if Britain votes to leave, if democracy is served in Great Britain by Great Britain withdrawing from the European Union, it is going to topple, or has the potential of toppling, economic markets all over the planet, setting off a domino effect. We need to still do business with each other, and I mean everybody in the world. You know, countries need to do business with each other. And countries need to do more business for themselves. It's not a sustainable practice to rely exclusively on the labor of another country to meet a need. And so whether you're focused on trade or on labor, whatever it is, and I'm talking about labor, I mean having a company in another country, or having an actual factory or business or production, you know, something being produced. I don't know. Ultimately, whatever the outcome is tomorrow, my prayer is the same. Whatever the outcome is, that the highest good is served. And even if it can't be seen in the moment, may there be some small comfort in that eventually things always work out. Sometimes the long run's longer than others. Anyway, back to making dinner.
Many years ago, in the ancient times of England, on a fateful day where the fairies played and the devil crept in shadows, two men did meet in a forest by the brook, and that day would change the fates of these two very foolish men. Spend time to do each other's souls. The eagles playing game, or one friends or one foes.
Well, the day is here. It has arrived today. Citizens of the United Kingdom are voting on whether or not the United Kingdom should remain part of the European Union. And keeping all of people of the United Kingdom in my heart and on my feet, I suppose we're going to see, the world's going to see what this is going to, or what the outcome, either way, whatever the result of today's vote is, there's going to be consequence. The fact that it was brought up as a vote at all is really what the big story is here. You know, I can't even mention any more about this, because as an American, I'm watching. And this is really, at this point, best left up for commentary by the citizens of the United Kingdom. A few years ago, I think it was 2011, artist PJ Harvey released an album that was critically acclaimed and won awards, and rightfully so. Let England Shake. There aren't that many artists out there that are still making albums. When you listen to music, it's each song is a product in and of itself, and the days of artists creating holistic albums are largely in the past. There are very few artists that are still working from a concept-driven position, as opposed to a product or monetary position. And this is an incredible album. And it really didn't get that much attention here in the United States, and I think it's because it was so... I mean, this is speaking to the heart of everything that's coming to a head today in the United Kingdom. And it's a shame that the United States and that other countries didn't stand up and take more notice of this album and other artworks that are comparable across different genre. So anyway, highly recommend it if you're an American and are trying to get a better feeling for the mind and heart set of the people of the United Kingdom. I think this album's a good place to start. Anyway, so this past weekend was Father's Day, and Omar and I traveled back to Detroit, where he and I met and fell in love and were married, and so the story goes. My parents still live there, and we had a wedding to attend. Private matters such as weddings aside, Omar and I also had a chance to reconnect with the D, as it is affectionately known, called by many people in the area there. Omar and I moved to Detroit around the same time when we were in the 90s, when we were young, with our families, with our parents, and we actually moved within walking distance of each other. And he was a year ahead of me in school, and I don't know, grew up in Detroit. I wasn't born in Detroit, but I grew up in Detroit. And there will always remain a deep affection, a deep love in my heart for the Metro Detroit area, for the city of Detroit, for the people of Detroit. Detroit is being reborn slowly, and a couple of years ago, Detroit really won a huge battle when the Detroit Institute of Arts was able to remain in Detroit. The city had become so corrupt and so bankrupt that they were actually looking at auctioning off the collection of the Detroit Institute of Arts. And there aren't too many people who understand this, who realize this. The Detroit Institute of Arts is a world-class museum. World-class museum. Their collection is, it spans, their collection is huge. I mean, hate to use a Donald Trumpism there. I mean, he doesn't get to own the word, right? But their collection is so expansive and so extensive. I mean, they have an Egyptian collection that is, they have an Egyptian wing, you know. They have the largest, and even outside of Egyptian artifacts, they have the largest collection of Islamic art outside of the Middle East. And as the Islamic State continues to destroy antiquities, which are a treasure of all humanity, not just whatever mother culture they come from. These antiquities are a treasure for all humanity. And as they are being destroyed and vandalized in the Middle East, collections like the one at the Detroit Institute of Arts become that much more precious. And the city of Detroit had the foresight to recognize the importance of these artifacts, and that is why their collection is as amazing as it is. I mean, collectors all over the world were drooling at the thought of being able to bid on the DIA's collection. And it's not just the artwork that's being housed in the building, but the building itself is a piece of artwork and is a testament to curation. It would have been a huge loss. And so seeing that institution survive, not just surviving, but thriving, and being able to showcase these works is that's something for hope. That's something for hope in this world. And besides that, if the DIA had left Detroit, that would have been a huge blow to the College for Creative Studies, which is my alma mater, and beyond being my alma mater, is one of the best art schools in the world. And part of the reason it is one of the best in the world is because of its long-term partnership with the Detroit Institute of Arts. So, anyway, I have lots of pictures of the DIA. Got to visit with my dad and of course with Omar, and I love seeing what they have up. Of course, their Frank Stella was up. I have a shot at the Frank Stella that was there. I talked about seeing that Frank Stella for the first time, and you know, I'll let you see it. The vibration that is created by that composition is so powerful. It's so powerful. The other thing that is so striking, when you walk into the front of the DIA, they have the main hall. That's where their armor is, and they must have some of their armor out on loan or something, because there were there were a couple Italian pieces that I didn't see, and I didn't see any of their French armor. So I'm not sure where their French armor is right now. Or if it was just, you know, someplace else in the museum, or maybe just not on display right now. But anyway, you walk into the main hall and there's the armor there, and then there's corridors or doors off of that courtyard that go into different sections, and then there's different levels, and they have a very wide collection of early American art and, you know, post-Civil War and post-Revolution. And the work is quite stunning. And there's always an emotion around American artwork that makes it identifiable almost immediately, even when the subject matter is something that is romanticized or of classical mythology or whatever. There is an emotion. You know, they use the word nostalgia, which, you know, but it really is. There is a nostalgic feeling to the gesture of American artwork, in particular early colonial and post-Revolutionary War work, specifically the post-Revolutionary War work. And they have a very nice transition after you see all these paintings and these sculptures and these objects, art objects. From the time period, you come full circle through the galleries, and then you walk into a collection that is specifically African American art. And even the way that the paintings and the sculptures are hung and arranged in the galleries, it's a beautiful, beautiful transition. It's a beautiful transition. The story is told seamlessly, and being in Detroit and seeing it really adds to that ambiance. Going to the DIA, it's a very impressive space, and you're very aware of being in a museum setting. But it's also like being in somebody's salon or somebody's sitting room. It's an inviting place. It's not. It doesn't seem. Oh, I don't even know what the word is. I do know what the word is I'm looking for. It's on the tip of my tongue. Pretentious. That's the word. It's not. The DIA is not pretentious in any way, shape, or form. It is a very humble and exquisite space, with a collection to match. I didn't get into the new exhibit. They had a couple of photography exhibits that were opening, and it was the day we were visiting was the day of the grand opening, which is for the members. So I didn't actually get to see the photography exhibits. I'm sure that they're spectacular because the DIA's photography galleries are incredibly and impeccably lit. I did get to see the last day of their print exhibit, which is a more recent collection of work from over the past 50 years, things people have gifted to the collection. And it's very interesting to see those prints as well, and I've included a couple of them in my slideshow, my photo slideshow. When I was in the DIA, though, I was so excited. Two things. I mean, they have an incredible selection of religious art, of reliquary and artifact. The DIA even has a portion of a Gothic French cathedral. It's quite respectful. I mean, everything is quite respectful. But I was very excited, they have the very famous Judith painting, which I have included in my slideshow, and they have yet another version of Susanna and the Elders, and this one, oh my goodness. This one is even more in your face. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic piece, and I was just so excited. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like everybody's got a Susanna and the Elders, so definitely worth going to see. Definitely worth going to see. So grateful to have been able to spend some time at the DIA, and of course in Rivera Court, and seeing the Diego Rivera frescoes that are there. That piece, that whole space is quite moving, quite moving, quite moving. this clips of this show. It's at a YouTube show channel, the Shay Show. So this guy Shay, he goes out, like, because there's all these houses that you can buy for like just a couple $100 or a couple thousand, you know, bucks in Detroit, and people have been buying them sight unseen, and then they get there and they find out why it is that they're paying $300 for a house. So you contact Shay, and Shay goes out and checks out the house and shows you what it is. And so he goes around and shows people all of the burned out houses, and this is swaths of neighborhoods. It's not isolated cases, it's entire blocks. You may only have 1 or 2 houses that aren't burned out. You might have a house that looks totally normal from the front. It's even got a padlock on the front door, but the padlock is totally useless because if you walk around the back's all burned out and you can see all inside the house. It's like a dollhouse, you know, except it's all burned up and crispy. And they've been, the new mayor of Detroit has been going through and demolishing a lot of these places, which should have been done a long time ago. So the story in Detroit was after the race riots, and what is now known as the Great White Flight, which is basically when all of the money and businesses left the city of Detroit and left it destitute. So after this happened, and Detroit has been just full of poverty and corruption since, and that's slowly starting to change. But a lot of these houses that were abandoned became squatters' homes or crack houses, and people who still lived in the neighborhoods became so disenchanted with city government because they wouldn't do anything about it, and these houses were causing crime. They would go out and they would burn them. And the night before Halloween in Detroit is known as or had been known as Devil's Night, and just basically people would go out and burn these houses down, and there'd be houses burning all over the place, and Detroit was on fire all the time. You know, they do the same thing with cars, abandoned cars, and you know, I'd drive into school in the morning when I was going to school down there, and you'd get the daily barbecue report. You know, they tell you where on I-75 there was a car torched because nobody'd come pick it up. But this is changing, and people are moving back in, and houses and neighborhoods are slowly getting redone. But this guy Shay goes through, and he really has an honest, and I think for the most part accurate perspective of humanity and what's going on in the city, and he seems to have a real love for seeing things turned around. So if you just can't wrap your mind around what it is I'm saying, look him up. Look up the Shay Show, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You know, you could drive down some of these streets, and it's like you're not in Palestine, you're in Detroit. And yeah, there are places in this country that are like that. But you know, we were in Greektown. Greektown is looking all cleaned up. You know, there used to be gunshots. You could go down. It used to be in the 90s. You go down to Greektown, you was really taking your life into your hands because there were shootings down there all the time. You heard about it. Greektown's looking really good. A lot of the old staples are still there, and like Nikki's was still there. And I don't know. I did drive by and see if Bouzouki Lounge is still there or not. That place was always a lot of fun. Doing bouzouki dancing. The food there was good. But anyway, things are turning around, and there's a lot of new shops that are opening up down there. And you know, some people were talking about how people are starting to complain about rent going up. I'm like, please, come out to Oakland and then complain to me about your rent going up. Things are turning around in Detroit, and that has been needed. You know, I mean, anyway, we stayed at the Motor City Hotel and Casino, which is owned by Mr. Mike Ilitch, and Omar and I both, when we were younger in high school and college, actually worked for Mr. Ilitch. He's, if you don't know who Mr. Ilitch is, he among other things owns Little Caesars Pizza, which is a big pizza franchise in Michigan. And good pizza. It's a Detroit style pizza. You know, Little Caesars Pizza is Detroit style pizza. And anyway, I worked for America's Pizza Cafe, which is similar to the California Pizza Kitchen. You know, similar kind of idea, you know. And Omar worked for Little Caesars, which was the delivery branch, and they're working on a new. They're revamping their downtown, the Rensen, and the stadium down there. And Mike Ilitch is doing it, and he wants to call it. My mom was telling me he wants to call it Little Caesars Palace or something, and that people are up in arms. They don't want to call it that. And I'm just like, I don't understand. Mr. Ilitch has done so much and has stood by Detroit. Little Caesars is his business. I mean, that's his flagship business. Why shouldn't he be able to put that on his building? You know, I mean, he's the one doing it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're not going to let him call it Little Caesars, then call it Ilitch Arena, because, you know, Mike Ilitch has done a lot, and it was a positive experience working working for the America's Pizza Kitchen. Well, it was a positive experience except for the night I had all my tips stolen. It happened to be a night I had worked 4 jobs and had, anyway, that's another story. That's another story. Somebody stole my car and insurance payment. I was cashing out at the end of the night. Anyway, story for another day. Story for another day. But those things happen. Those things happen. We went to the Renaissance Center, and the Rensen. That's a really cool building with a beautiful view of the city. And I hadn't been in the Rensen for like 20 years, literally. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that here's a building I haven't been in for 20 years. And we went to this little shop in there, a little, you know, a Detroit boutique shop called Pure Detroit. And I got these funny little gutchies that say Detroit is for lovers on the butt. They're funny, and got a couple Detroit neighborhood T-shirts. I got the Corktown T-shirt, and I got the Hamtramck T-shirt. I spent a lot of time hanging out in Detroit and going, because I went to school in Detroit, and, you know, if you lived in the Metro Detroit area, that's where all the clubs were, or where most of them were. That's where you'd go. And so we spent a lot of time in Hamtramck. Omar and I both. There are a bunch of bars. I don't think they're there anymore, but the ones that we used to hang out in. But we used to hang out in Hamtramck a lot. So I got the Hamtramck T-shirt. And then Corktown. I love Corktown. Corktown's a sweet place, and there's an artist in particular there who I knew when I was in school. He didn't go to school with me. He was an older gentleman, but I met him, and we knew people in the same circles. I was working at a gallery, and we showed some of his work. His name's Jerome Ferretti. So if you're in Detroit, you see these really fun, whimsical brick. And when I say brick, I mean they're masonry. He was by trade a mason, a brick mason. And so, like, there was one that was near the hotel. When you get on, take Trumbull to get on 75. Anyway, right around there is a big, like a kiddie igloo. And I remember when he finished that piece, because I was working at the gallery at the time, and that's actually when we were having his show, was when he finished that piece, and he called, and he was telling me about that he'd finished the piece. And anyway, Jerome was always a very nice guy, and his work's really cool. So it was really nice to see that as well. And anyway, he's a Corktown artist. So shout out to Corktown. Shout out to Corktown on that. But that is all very pure Detroit, right? Yeah. So, gun control. John Oliver's been talking about gun control. Stephen Colbert's been talking about gun control. There's all this. Everybody's been talking about gun control, but like, where is the productive conversation? You know, talk about this needs to happen or that needs to happen. I want to talk about what my experience has been here in Oakland with this issue. I don't want to talk about what I think should happen or what I think shouldn't happen. I'm going to tell you about what my experience has been with this issue. So, gun violence is an issue in Oakland. This is a fact. This isn't something I'm making up. Gun violence is an issue in Oakland. And there is a lot of, it's not exclusively, but there is a very large issue with black on black crime, and specifically with young black men killing each other. And I don't care what color you are, where you come from. If people are killing people, that's a gun issue. But when you're looking at groups within Oakland that are directly engaging the issue of gun violence, you're going to find that it's a lot of African American groups, because this is a big issue in the community for their particular specific community. So it was something I was concerned about too, because somebody getting shot in my community is my concern as well. And there was a group that I had been going out and doing stand-ins with. So what this group was doing was going out onto corners in neighborhoods where gun violence had affected people, somebody had died, and call on the community to give information. So we'd chant for like an hour, you know, asking to stop the violence and to please go to the authorities with any information so that crimes could be, people could get closure and crimes could be taken care of. And this one weekend, you know, I would post on social media that I was going out to do this. And so this one weekend, we're getting ready to leave to go for a stand-in, and I'm posting on social media, and this meme comes up in both my Facebook and my Google Plus, and it's a picture of a dead kitty, and it looked like one of my kitties. It looked like Miss Kitty Pants. And it said, on the meme, it said, "You know what curiosity did to the cat." And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of yucky, right? Well, when I got out to the site where we were standing that day, the cat was there. The photo had been taken at the location. And so then I knew that I was being targeted with that message, and that was quite upsetting. And then I found out that the case that we were standing for in particular that day was actually a federal case. And after this, I've talked before in videos about dealing with the issue of a stalker for a few years now, and it can be tiresome. But after this event, it was when it really started to get bad here in Oakland for me with the stalking and the harassment. And, you know, this group was also working with the Brady campaign that had a petition at one point to ask the governor to make it mandatory in the state of California to mail home to all children, where all children's addresses were registered, an invitation to come to a forum to discuss proper gun storage, because a big issue with young people they're getting their hands on their parents' weapons because they're not stored properly. So I had a petition about this, and I started to take it around to my neighbors for signing. It wasn't anything even about changing gun laws per se. It was just asking to talk about gun safety in the schools. Well, this guy in my building where I used to live, he took it off of me and wouldn't give it back to me, and told me that I should be ashamed of myself for wanting to send something like this home with children. And he's a gun nut. He's a gun nut, you know. And I'm not anti-gun per se. I can make that choice for myself. I don't want one, right? But when it comes down to the safety of children, the safety of people in the streets, when you have an epidemic of children shooting children, then you need to talk about this. And this guy was so hateful. This guy was so hateful for me. When I finally moved, the day I finally moved out of the building, he stood outside of his unit watching us move stuff with a gas mask on. This is a big bald guy, big white guy who shaves his head. He's wearing a gas mask, and then he put up a sign. It says, "Good riddance," to me. Well, I know what that was. That was a hate crime. That man was a white supremacist. And that's why he wants his guns. I experienced a hate crime. That man did other acts of intimidation against me and some other women in the building there. on numerous occasions. He claims to be a veteran. I don't know that he is. All I know is that he was quite abusive and quite hateful. And when you start talking about the very real issue of gun violence in communities, when you start talking to people who have actually been affected by weapons, and then you talk to people like that, that's what the issue is here. Anyway, I don't know what the answer is. I think, yeah, more background checks is a good idea. And but I really don't know. I really don't know. We need to stop being afraid of each other. I choose not to have a gun. I choose not to have a gun. I choose not to have a gun. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. For anybody who was wondering, you know, so I know I like a lot of things that traditionally are thought of as being guy things, right? Like I like scotch, I like bourbon, I like whiskey, I like to play darts, I like to play pool, I like to watch the ball game at the bar. You know, I like to build things, I like to work with tools. I like to follow politics. I like these things. But make no mistake. I'm a woman. I'm a woman and I can prove it. Because now I have my woman card. Let's see, here are some of the perks your woman card gets you. Lower wages, 79 cents or less for every dollar a man makes. No paid family leave. 25% of women in America return to work within 10 days of having a child. Limited access to making your own reproductive health care decisions, varies by state. I'm so sorry, Oklahoma. It must be very hard. Women of Oklahoma, my heart goes out to you. Power to head to the polls and elect our first woman president. I got my woman card. Congratulations. You're the majority. That's right. Congratulations. Congratulations. I hear they have recovered the flight data recorder from the Egypt flight, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. And much love to the people of Fallujah. I hope that there will now be more of a sense of safety and that things will only continue to move forward. Anyway.
Okay then, Amazing Saints in the key of B.
You read my mind! come marching in, when the saints come marching in, how I wish to be in that number, when the saints come marching in. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saves a wretch like me. Amazing grace poured down on me. I once was lost, but now am found. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Amazing grace poured down on me.
'Twas grace that taught.
'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear. And grace my fears relieved. Amazing grace she poured down on me. How precious did that grace appear. How precious did that grace appear. The hour I first believed. Amazing grace poured down on me. When we've been there, 10,000 years, 10,000 years. When we've been there, 10,000 years. Bright shining as the sun. Amazing grace poured down on me. We've no less days, to sing God's praise, to sing God's praise. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace for everyone. Saints come marching in, when the saints come marching in, how I wish to be in their number. When the saints come marching in.
Beautiful.